Once in a while, a truly evil commander comes along to spread fear and salt all across the Magic the Gathering community. Braid's Cabal Minion, banned. Grand Arbiter Augustin IV, not bans. Why not banned? Leovold, Emissary of Trest, banned. Tegrid, God of Fright, it's too new to be banned. Some of these mighty avatars of woe have met their end at the judgment of the Rules Committee, banned forever, but others have managed to live on. Now a new commander enters the ring, Xander, and I don't know about you, but let's get it banned. Let's get it banned right now. I mean, at kitchen tables and local game stores alike, their reputations precede them. Content creators speak of them in venomous tones. Convention halls, long devoid of life during the pandemic, are still haunted by their names from the last Commander Fest. Now, with Streets of New Capenna on the horizon, another legendary creature joins their illustrious ranks. Let's get him banned! Here's a deck to get him banned. Let's put this deck together and play it until everyone writes to Sheldon saying, you gotta ban this commander! Why hasn't this commander... Let us examine. Lord Xander the Collector is a 6/6 legendary vampire demon noble. Talk about running the gamut. For 4 generic, a blue, a black, and a red. Good thing they made this cost 7. Just to be safe, you gotta make the cards cost 7. There are 3 clauses in Lord Xander's rules text, the first of which reads, when Lord Xander the Collector enters the battlefield, target opponent discards half the cards in their hand, rounded down. Hand destruction upon entering the battlefield is powerful, but it pales in comparison to the second clause, which states, whenever Lord Xander attacks, defending player mills half their library, rounded down. Now, Lord Xander the Collector definitely seems like a remove on-site sort of creature, doesn't he? Well, the third clause may give our opponents some pause in that regard, because when Lord Xander dies, target opponent sacrifices half the non-land permanents they control, rounded down. How delightfully devilish. Lord Xander the Collector has not 1, not 2, but 3 ways to deprive our opponents of their resources, including when he dies to removal. Now, which of these 3 abilities will we be playing into our deck? How about all 3? Lord Xander the Collector is designed to make the lives of our opponents miserable, and it seems to me like we ought to play into that. With that in mind, let us take a look at hand destruction. There are many powerful cards that force our opponents to discard, but they often require us to do so as well. Instead, we are going to play spells that allow us to trigger Lord Xander the Collector multiple times. Conjurer's Closet is a 5-mana artifact that allows us to exile a target creature we control and then return it to the battlefield. Cast Lord Xander the Collector and have an opponent's hand. Then, on our end step, target him with Conjurer's Closet to do it to another opponent. Or the same one if we wish. Thassa, Deep Dwelling, the first god we will discuss, does the same thing, though she only costs 4 total mana to cast. Deadeye Navigator, oh you knew Deadeye would show up in this list, is a 5/5 spirit with Soul Bond, which allows it to pair with another creature when either enters the battlefield, and has an activated ability for 1 and a blue to exile the creature it is paired with and return it to the battlefield immediately after. With enough mana and Deadeye Navigator, Lord Xander the Collector can wreak utter havoc upon our opponent's hands. Flickering is not our only means of increasing the impact of Lord Xander's enter the battlefield ability. We also run a pair of cards that bounce him back to our hand, allowing us to recast him again and again. Crystal Shard is a 3-mana artifact for 3 generic mana, or more likely a single blue mana, that can be tapped to return target creature to its owner's hand, unless that owner pays a single generic mana. Needless to say, when we ask ourselves, do we pay the 1? We'll say no, we don't pay the 1, we'll just let him go back to hand. Joining Crystal Shard is an enchantment called Escape Route that can bounce a white or black creature for 2 and a blue. It may not be as efficient as Crystal Shard, but Escape Route provides a solid layer of redundancy. As a bonus, both of these cards give Lord Xander some much-needed protection from our opponent's inevitable wrath. There are benefits of forcing our opponents to discard their hands that go well beyond just ruining their day. Tegrid, God of Fright, the second deity we will discuss, allows us to put any permanents that our opponents would discard onto the battlefield under our control. In the highly likely event Lord Xander is killed, Tergrid does the same thing for the permanents Lord Xander forces an opponent to sacrifice. While our opponents lose their hands, we can enlarge our own with cards like Tiny Bones, Trinket Thief, and Geth's Grimoire, which allow us to draw cards if and when our opponents discard. Liliana's Caress is a 2-mana enchantment that causes our opponents to lose life for every card they discard, and that adds up quickly here. Finally, Waste Not is another 2-mana enchantment, but with a plethora of payoffs. For each creature our opponents discard, we gain a 2/2 zombie creature token, while each land grants us 2 black mana, and everything else draws us a card. This is one of the best cards in the deck. With hand destruction out of the way, it's time to turn to mill. Again, as with our hand destruction strategy, we're going to focus on making Lord Xander shine rather than build in a bunch of other mill engines. And in order to do this, we will need to make it easy for Lord Xander to attack. Several blue auras will be the key to making this strategy work. Aqueous Form makes the creature it enchants unblockable, always guaranteeing a good attack for us. The trio of Arcane Flight, Shimmering Wings, and Fly grant the creature they enchant flying for a single blue. Aboshan's Desire does the same thing for the same price, only it will give Lord Xander Shroud if we have 7 or more cards in our graveyard. To maximize the damage Lord Xander can do to our opponent's libraries, we're also going to run Bruvak the Grandiloquent, which doubles the number of cards an opponent mills each time they mill. With our opponents dumping their libraries into their graveyards at an alarming rate, Mass Reanimation is definitely in the cards. Pun intended. Rise of the Dark Realms is an obvious choice, but let's add Command the Dreadhorde to the mix as well. Sometimes the best creatures from our opponent's graveyards are all we'll need anyway. On that note, let's throw in Animate Dead. No doubt we'll have plenty of options to choose from, and those creatures are better used under our control than in our opponent's graveyards. Necrogoyf will round out this part of our strategy, as its power and toughness are all but guaranteed to be enormous. As an added bonus, Necrogoyf causes our opponents to discard every turn. That's almost as sweet as our intended pun. Our third strategy is perhaps our most brutal: Forced Sacrifice. Our opponents will already be running low on resources in their hands and decks, so let's deprive them of resources on the battlefield. We will of course be running Plague Crafter, Demon's Disciple, and Fleshbag Marauder. And joining them will be an old favorite of mine, Anawan, the Rune Sage, and Archfiend of Depravity, to keep the squeeze on our opponents turn after turn. The Eldest Reborn and the Long Reach of Night are a pair of sagas that force our opponents to sacrifice a creature, or even a planeswalker in the case of the Eldest Reborn, when they enter the battlefield, and they have excellent payoffs as they progress. A trio of devastating sorceries bring up the rear on this particular strategy. First we have Dark Intimations. Oh my. For 2 generic, a blue, a black, and a red, each opponent sacrifices a creature and discards a card, while we return a creature from our graveyard to our hand and draw a card. And of course we're going to include Cruel Ultimatum, which, while only targeting one opponent, does grant us quite a boon. Finally, we have Capital Punishment, a card which forces our opponents to vote on what awful outcome they will be forced to endure. It reads, starting with you, each player votes for death or taxes. Each opponent sacrifices a creature for each death vote and discards a card for each taxes vote. There is nothing more brutal than forcing someone else to choose their own form of suffering. With our strategies well in hand, it's time to turn to the nuts and bolts. Along with all that sacrifice, we'll add the usual suspects of Chaos Warp, Vandal Blast, and Blasphemous Act to our removal package. Red's gotta pull its weight somehow, after all. Pongify and Rapid Hybridization are great for creature removal at the cost of only a single mana, while Resculpt and Feed the Swarm are quickly becoming format staples for dealing with permanent types. Their colors are usually helpless too. Protecting our commander is a must, so Counterspell, Negate, and Drown in the Loch are included. Sign in Blood, Night's Whisper, Read the Bones, Painful Truths, Brainstorm, and Preordain keep the cards coming, as do 12 mana rocks to help us get Lord Xander the Collector out quicker. Finally, as an ode to suffering, we run Jin-Gitaxi's Kor Agur. Why? Because if we get to 10 mana, nobody else deserves to even try to have fun. And there you have it. A guide to building a Lord Xander the Collector Commander deck, guaranteed to lose you friends and alienate strangers. Iona is banned, but not Xander. Xander's fine, but, Iona, the 3 people who played with Iona and just had it in their Angel deck. Ooh, can't have that, but Xander, no problem? Well, now I want to hear from you. Are there any truly vile cards I missed that would have a happy home in this deck, especially to make it more miserable and more ban-worthy? Let me know in the comments below. And I hope that this video has been fun for you to watch. Certainly more fun than Lord Xander will be to play against. Let me know in the comments below, and remember to hit subscribe and share with a friend so that you can truly spread the misery that is Lord Xander.